that's probably one of those things that we'll see, maybe not see more and more, well, kind of see more and more, but like it'll happen more and more, regardless of whether.
Well, I was just thinking in one's own personal life, like you can look at yourself and think how, if you're trying to learn something, how often are you just like, well, I am where I am, and then like do the next step that's like the best step, you know, rather than like kind of bouncing all over the place, not aware, not equanimous, and kind of wasting energy. So if you just take that on a, I mean, as you said, you know, more and more, well, because individuals are doing it more, you know, they're doing better more and more.
Yeah.
So
Like I like to joke and meme about how people are really slow at learning, which they are relative to how fast people could learn. Like obviously, I could sit down and just to write novels, for example, I need to read over how a point of view shift might affect something, or like different examples and variations of things, to really kind of capture it in myself, even when I'm deliberately intuitively able to do a lot of the things that would make this efficient. It still isn't as efficient as it possibly could be. So like that scale of like what is human potential versus where we are versus like the opposite of human potential, just like we're not doing anything right. There's a huge degree there, and it spreads in both directions, like way more than people can possibly imagine, because it's just like humans are, and for the most part, people are like really fumbling around in kind of trying to figure out how to get to this level where they can look at things once, or in as few times as possible, and get as much from it as possible. Like, just the basic concept of learning. If you want to learn something quick, the faster the better, the more thoroughly the better, the more nuanced the better, the quicker it moves into intuition, so you can break all of the rules and experiment and be creative with it, the better. Like, that's kind of the whole point. And obviously that is like an infinite ladder to climb in terms of like what we could possibly do. And every person is different. So you have like one person learn the thing and they learn like certain aspects of it, certain nuances of it. Another one might jump in and they get some things right away. And maybe they're like even more skilled than the person who like has gone into it like really trying to hammer it out. But then this person hammering it out goes a little further, and then this person dives into hammering it out. That person jumps into experiencing it. It's like this weird chain where everybody's learning at different rates in different parts, in different ways, and like all the different sections of it at different degrees too, all over. So for everybody learning things very slowly, it makes sense because things are complex and humans are complex, and like that's kind of the whole point of learning things, that learning implies that we have learning to do. So it makes sense that if we have not learned this, it must be something that is tricky for us. So we're going into things, and it's implied in itself that we are going to have. It's not going to come quickly or easily. Like that is kind of the point of learning. Oddly enough, it's like a weird paradox in itself. But like how fast people could learn is remarkable, and for example, with things like music or Smash Bros or whatever else, the quickest that, like, to wrap this around back to what we were saying, is the quickest that I've ever seen.
Music or Smash Bros?
Well, like anything that people,
things he relates to.
Well, specifically, like when people have wanted to learn those things, and I was involved. The quickest that I've ever seen people learn it is when I just say the simple things and like hammer it in. Pay attention to what you're paying attention to. Like, you're obviously paying attention to something. What is it? Pay attention to whatever you're paying attention to. And then the more people bring their attention to what am I paying attention to as they move, they're just becoming more and more present as they go. And those people, whether it's music, Smash, novel writing, anything that is like an endeavor to learn, they accelerate way faster because all they're doing is becoming more aware of what is going on as they're trying to learn, as they're trying to go through the phases of not be as slow to pick up on things, or pick up on the things that they missed at some point, or weed through the nuances of whatever this task is. The more that they just pay attention to what they're paying attention to, the more they become aware of what is going on and where do I go from here. they accelerate so much faster, and it dwarfs, like, immediately they go from crap tier of like whatever they're doing. Not like they could already be very good at the thing, but crap tier in terms of like their rate of learning and their skill at understanding how they work. To suddenly they're like on, on a really skilled person's level of like anything that I'm looking at, I'm picking up right away and I'm learning quickly. And this continues for as long as they are paying attention to what they're paying attention to. And as much as that fades away, that much they dip back into crap tier and they're just kind of stagnant. And like if we just had a general understanding, or people, it was like a
Tattooed. It'd be, get it tattooed on.
yeah, like just a general what is it? A cultivated practice. Like if that was the practice,
Yeah.
The teaching is the practice. Practice is the teaching. You're teaching yourself to do these things, and the practice is to learn these things. How do you do it? You be where you are, and where do I go from here? And
how do you do that? Well, you pay attention to what you're noticing.
yeah, you pay attention to what you're like, and what you're noticing is like, if I lay on my back and have a pain in my back or something, my body, my whole soul feels this thing. If my mind is wandering or is somewhere else, the only thing not paying attention to what I'm paying attention to is my thoughts, and they'll drift away. As soon as I bring those thoughts back and pay attention to what like the rest of my entire being is paying attention to, it's like, it would not hurt to land on my back if I landed on that screwdriver, because I can feel my back. But when I'm not feeling my back and I'm going to react to it when I hit it because I'm not paying attention, then it hurts.
Yeah.
And then suffering is there.
I guess that's a good, because I mean, most of the time when I've heard you say that, pay attention to what you're paying attention to, I've thought of it more mentally rather than like.
It definitely starts there, like when the mental thing, because that is usually what people are lost in, and as soon as they start to pay attention to that, it automatically draws itself back to like your breath, and eventually you just land on breath and sensation.
But I would also say like, if you say you start there, then you could stay there. But if you say attention means what you're attending to, which is like means a different thing, or is not mental, is a full body, full mind, layout of that tells a different story.
Yeah, it's like, say somebody is wanting to, like they're playing frisbee or hockey or something, like they're doing some physical action. Obviously, the body, the soul, the spirit, whatever, like your consciousness is actively moving limbs and doing something. And so like you're tending to it. You are attentive, very much so, to whatever you may be doing. But if you're not deliberately paying attention to what you are attending, and like, you're in attendance for the experience of life, and if you're not deliberately there, with your attendance, you are in attendance.
You're skipping class.
Yeah, like.
But you're not, because you're actually attending.
Like you can't be anywhere else except where you are, and then to try and force yourself to be anywhere else, or just like wander off and not be there.
Yeah.
Then there's that huge clash and then as soon as something happens to this, when you're elsewhere, this feels it still. Like your thoughts and your whatever is going to feel it. It's just going to react to it. And then the suffering is there because, and you come back, be like, what happened? Like, in an instant, you stub your toe, psh, snap back. Like, it's just attending to, you're already attending. It's just, you have to deliberately and intentionally pay attention to it. And eventually that becomes intuitive to the point where you are here. You can think about anything, but you have not you've not separated your thought stream and your cares and your attachments or whatever from what is going on within you. And then you're just fully there. And now you're paying perfect attention to exactly what you were always paying attention to. Hence, everybody's doing Vipassana all the time.
And hence the intuitive and then determined or intuitive, where you don't have to think about that process taking place because it is intuitive.
Life becomes intuition, even when you're working in the nitty-gritty.
Or if you're learning a skill, or you're doing a skill that you've learned, you are not going to lose your ability with it if you, I guess, have, I forget kind of what I was going to say, but I guess if you have less intuition,
Yeah.
you're still going to be intuitive.
And you can shift it around more. You just have like more. Control isn't the right word, but it's like more of a.
I was thinking about that the other day. I thought about Vipassana, and I was just thinking about how paying attention to your breath is like, well, I was like, is it control? It's kind of control, but it's actually more so what like Alan Watts says, like the word discipline means skill, and so it's a discipline.
It's an ability.
A skill. Yeah.
There's nothing. It's like.
The control is a conflict because you're against something else, right?
Yeah, or like a manipulation of it or whatever. But it's almost like you're not controlling the fact that you're alive right now.
Yeah.
Or your heart beating. Some people might be able to.
If you were, then there would be like, I'm controlling it because if I lose control, then something.
Yeah, like
the
control means there's another.
Yeah.
But skill means there's like a lack of skill and a lot of skill. There's no opposite to it.
Yeah.
So it makes a lot more sense.
It's a degree.
But it appears as control because if you're skilled, you can do whatever you want. And whatever life throws at you, like life just happens, it does its thing, and you just get to move with it and explore it with life. Where the other version of it, what it appears at looks like control, like a bunch of things are happening, and you're able to shuffle through it really well. But more, it's just like you are aware of what's going on,
which equals the same difference as focus versus attention. In a way, right? Because if you're controlling, it's like you have that intention or that kind of. I forget. You just said something that brought that connection for me is focus. But just like the directedness.
Right. Yeah.
Direction versus. It's just happening.
Yeah. Which the direction it's kind of cool. Like it has this part. Like say I want to learn this one nuance of this thing that I'm learning. I direct myself. I can focus on that.
Yeah.
But you don't have to lose awareness and attention to focus on it. Like the awareness and intuition and all that. It's almost like you can control something, but you don't have to lose your skill to do it.
Yeah.
Like if you have to control things, and you have no skill, then you're forced to control things because you lack skill.
Yeah.
But if you can have a lot of skill and control things, and you will not lose your skill. In the same way, you can, if you lack awareness and attention, you can focus on things because you don't have the awareness to just see it without focus. But if you develop a lot of skill and you're very able, that's probably the best word to use here, just like being able, then you can focus on things and you still have your ability to.
Yeah, it's like things can be in focus without focus.
Yeah. And it's amazing how fast people learn and how quickly people pick up on things and how much cool stuff people do and how much awesomeness and how much happier they are and everything when that's cultivated. That pay attention to what you're paying attention to. That being aware of what is taking place with oneself and moving from there. That, where are we? Let's go from here. When somebody is intuitive